this opportunity to introduce Mr. Ketan Dhruv from Bangalore Refinery. He has contributed to development of the jewellery and bullion industry in the state of Karnataka. His participation and contribution to the industry in the state of Karnataka along with colleagues in Karnataka Jewellery Association is immensible and it requires applause. So, we welcome you to this event, sir.
Thank you.
Being one of the leading refiners with years of expertise in recycling of precious metals, what do you see the opportunities, potentials and challenges in silver refining business?
Silver, there's a lot of scope in refining because there's a lot of recycling happening of the old articles, and there's definitely a lot of industrial recycling also coming up nowadays. With the increase in the industrial demand for silver, there's opportunity both on the fabrication and the recycling. There is a boom in compared to the world, India manufacturing is booming and also the electronics is coming up. So there's a good demand from the electrical and electronic sector and also from the pharmaceutical sector. Pharmaceutical sector is a pretty good demand center, and everywhere there is demand, there's always some waste, some recycling. So there's also recycling, including the jewelry sector. So the challenges is that the fabrication side is we have facing some challenges. Main challenges being that the duty on silver is 15%, and whereas sometimes on the import of the finished product, duty is very low. It could be 5%.
Inverted duty structure.
Inverted duty structure. That is why we are not manufacturing as much as we should be compared to our GDP. That is something which we would request the government to look at, and that create an ecosystem, economic system where we can actually do the production of more of the production for the industrial sector. And we have a lot of good players in the sector where we can also produce exports from here in the sector if there's something done on the import side of the silver. I understand the government is always worried about, they want to control the consumption on the investment side or the jewelry side or the consumer side. But not only silver but gold and other things are also required for the industrial side. They need to create a separate channel for the industrial sector in the PGM. Maybe a special import license or some kind of duty structure that if you're importing for industrial, you can import at a lower duty structure. So then you don't have the inverted structure.
On a user case basis.
Yes. Like you have IGMRE kind of rules. So if you import for industrial products and there are reasonable controls already in place, if that channel is created, then we can definitely save a lot of foreign exchange from the imports which we are doing. Because even if we import something at a low duty, you're still paying the making charge in dollars. So that you're spending a lot of money there. So if you allow the import over here, the making charge stays here. So we save the forex, and because of that, we may be able to export also. So that is something we have requested the government, and we request the government to look at it, create a special line for the PGMs, and to understand that PGMs are a very important strategic requirement. Like for your satellites, you need a lot of PGMs. Your defense needs a lot of PGMs. Your pharma, which is a major export earning, requires a lot of PGM. Your electronics sector is also going to need a lot of PGM, and if those are there here, then probably the entire electronic will be a part of why the electronic chain would come here. Right now, what we are seeing is more electronic assembly. Government does show about the phones and other things, but they are more on the assembly side. We don't see the capacitor manufacturing or the passive components being manufactured, which require the silver. So that we are still depending on imports, and that is reason is happening is manufacturing those is not happening here. It's not possible to happen here because of the inverted duty structure. Not only I'm say precious metals and silver, but few other such components. So this is just one part of the story that will help us make in India faster. So that is only what we would request the government to look at and understand the strategic importance of silver and the other PGMs as such, and try to treat these industrial channels little separately. And obviously with nanotechnology and all the more things coming up with silver, we don't know what other uses will be there, but there will definitely be more better uses. And we can then probably, if we have this reduced duty and other things, we can be the world supplier with its new technologies. So that is what we would
One thing you can do value addition here.
Yes.
More of forex earnings can come inside, and
Yes.
job creation is
Definitely, yeah.
It's all a holistic and inclusive
Holistic,
growth.
yes.
Just
So,
by addressing the
Correct.
inverted duty structure
Yes, so
on
like
case-to-case basis.
I would say, yeah, case to case basis, like we take chapter 28300, which is for precious metals. I could be wrong, but the yearly import is roughly about $1.6 billion. And to my knowledge, these are mainly at a very discounted duty. So anyway, government is not getting any duty on that. So if they allow us to, and if I say assume even a value addition of 3 to 4%, we can save up to 40 to 50 million USD by that manufacturing happening here. By that, it will not happen immediately in 1 year, but maybe 1 or 2 years. So I'm sure when we look at other products like the contacts or the catalysts, that figure will be quite big. It could be somewhere in $2 to $3 billion is what we are. And we can easily look at a savings of up to 100 million over a period of time. And this is not going to cost the government anything, but it requires a small change in the...
In fact, it complements in the exchequer getting more revenue also.
Yes,
There's
yes.
nothing to lose from the exchequer side.
Yeah, nothing to lose from the exchequer. He'll get more income tax. There's more, the more jobs are created.
Creative value addition.
Yeah, value addition. And so, yes, so the secondary taxes or the income tax and other things and employment creation. And then second thing is that will help us to export these products. So that is the only policy thing which should do. And then obviously, because they're the newer technologies we are talking about, more collaboration with the institutes is very much required. I think government did a good, they gave a grant for the lab-grown diamonds. Yeah. So that's going to save a foreign exchange. Then over a period of time, they can also look at these high advanced material, how they can help us in the research and development, so we can also grow that.
There's some lack of connectivity between the academic and the industry.
I think there too, there is a lack of connectivity between the industry and the academia, and I'm sure this conference is a good first step towards that. And I think within the academy, they need to be able to have a talk. So these conferences will help people to talk about it. And like I said, if the government identifies these as a strategic industry, like nanoparticles as such, then they create a fund or resource, then there can be one body, whichever that is, that discusses and gives a direction to various research
Like
institutes.
how it has been done for lab-grown diamonds to IIT Chennai.
Yeah, so there was a clear direction, but this one, it's one technology, we can say, lab-grown diamonds or CVD as such. But over here we are talking about a host of technologies. We are talking about solar panels, silver pastings, we are talking about electric vehicles. So then there has to be some coordination, but I'm sure that can be figured out. So how various institutes can collaborate, various industries can collaborate, because at the end, government, I think knows it, but R&D is a very risky job. We don't know whether we'll succeed, and whatever success is after a lot of failures. So that is something which a particular industry may be able to take it up, may not be able to take it up. So that is where the government has to look at as an investment, as a risk capital, or give some incentive to the industries to allow to take risks. Like before, you could write off R&D expenses, which is not allowed anymore. So that kind of disincentivizes the industry to take the risks. So those are the things which can go a long way. Or even in CSR, we should be allowed to spend on R&D for green technologies. Okay, you don't say it, but even if you allow the CSR to be spent on green technologies, you can create a lot of opportunities there. So I think you don't need very drastic. I think simple basics would be enough. And we have a lot of smart people.
Apart from manufacturing of vapors, we must do something. Localization of the silver paste also.
Yes.
So that requires a lot of R&D. And still we have to depend on imports.
Yeah. So even if you do the localization of the Indian paste, then your raw material shouldn't be more expensive than the
it's
final.
expensive.
So that inverted structure.
Yes,
so
you need your
like you said, if you take the case, you need your PLI, you need your institutes to work together, and you also need a proper economic framework. So I'm sure, since we're talking about silver, but when you go look at a solar panel, there could be a lot of other issues. We are not competent to talk about all that. We can only talk about one component.
But silver is a major component of it.
Yeah, so there could be. So those all, if they're done together, then it's going to work. So always it's like making a car. So in a car, even if you forget one nut, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
You'll have 99.9% of the parts ready, but because of that one nut not
Perfection won't be there.
No, the car will not work. The wheel will just come off. So you need to be very detail oriented, is what it is. So that is the way we have to look at it, like just literally like an engineering problem with a detailed drawing, what is happening, what is to be done. So this entire industry is to be engineered.
Re-engineered again.
Engineer, no, it doesn't exist, so it has to be engineered, and you need to understand everything and engineer it to that detail. And then only you can get the car moving. Like I said, one bolt is missing, it's not going to work. One connection on the electrical battery is missing, the car is not going to work. So any small point which is missed out, we have been stuttering for many years. So like we took the solar example, take every other example, it's going to be, somebody has to take the leadership and government has to help us. Listen to it with an open mind. Because unfortunately what happens is when the precious metal comes, gold also comes into the way. There have been some misuses, we don't deny that, there have been always black sheep. But because of that you don't stop the progress of the country. So because there may be some misuse, you stopping the progress of the country is not an argument, which is a very short-term argument, I feel, but yeah, something they need to look at. That's only what my suggestion is.
What's your take from Indian Silver Conference, sir?
I really like the framework, and like I said, I really like the direction with getting the academia on it. I'm sure it's the first time, there will be some hiccups, but with the academia coming in and there's a platform for industry to talk to the academia, it's a very good, and academy also gets to know what the industry will need. It's a dialogue, and based on this, I'm sure the next edition will be much better, and more people will come looking forward, and there should be more industry and research academy collaborations we can see in the future, and let's hope for the best. And so only I guess the missing piece over here is the probably the policymaker or the government, so they could see that as to that it's an industrial
they can have an impulse actually what the industry requires.
Yes. So big thing is that globally we are almost 40% of silver is for industrial purpose. So you don't need to look at it as only going to be for jewelry or investment coins. So that is something which I think if the government representative was there and looked at the figures, looked at the people from European countries talking about it, would know what this metal is going to be all about. And similarly in gold, I think about 15 to 20% is industrial.
Yes, exactly.
So that's another thing. Platinum is much way higher. It's something around 70-80%.
So high-end catalyst,
Yes. So that is the thing which we could have the government representative look at those statistics and figures. Maybe the policy on this matter can change, because I think the data, I don't know, maybe they are aware of the data, but it's not going to the right people to see it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.